Hey everyone, my name's Sarah Lavonne and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've been following along over here, since about August of 2021, I launched a series where I let you into my life, vlog style, of freezing my eggs. I did that about a year before I launched that series. And so many of you have followed along. I shared all the nitty gritty, multiple meltdowns, funny moments, me coming out of anesthesia. And so now we are a year later and I have frozen my eggs again. And so today I'm gonna tell you the results of round 2 of egg freezing, how many eggs I got. The first round I only got 2, so anything more than 2 would have been a success, and I will say it was a success. And then because I had more eggs this time, I wanna let you into all the things that I did differently to help set myself up for egg freezing success. And so I'm gonna walk you through everything I did different, teach you about what I learned along the way, and then anything else fun that comes up while I'm at it. So before I do that, make sure you subscribe down below, give it a like, share it with a friend, and then let's get into it. Before I tell you the results of what happened this time around with my egg freezing, I want to tell you all the things that I did differently. Now, these are things that you can consider doing for yourself. And I will say that most of this stuff is just really good habits of health. If I'm honest, I think this last year, I've probably been the hardest on my body. I've gained some weight. I haven't been as nutrient focused. I haven't really worked out for the last year. And so going into this second round of egg freezing, one, it's been a year. And with egg freezing, the more time that goes on, usually the worse outcome because your eggs go like this, they don't usually get better. So I was worried about that. And then I was also really concerned that my health was affected based on the amount of stress that I have been through this last year. And so I, first of all, started with a lot of mental work that I did, which I'm gonna let you into. So before I get into all the things, and I've literally laid them out here so that I can remember all the things that I added to my life, I will just say as a basic disclaimer, and I know I have my disclaimer slide, but anything you do, make sure you check with your doctor and make sure that you're checking in with your doctor or your healthcare provider just to make sure that things are safe for you. Also, I am not a fertility expert. I am a labor, birth, pregnancy expert. And so this has been a journey for me in terms of learning about my health, learning about things that support fertility and support healthy follicle growth, which the follicles are what holds the eggs. If you haven't seen the vlogs, go see the vlogs. You'll learn a lot along the way. And so just as a basic disclaimer, not all of this stuff, and I will just say very candidly, this may not work for you. And I don't actually know which of these worked for me. I would say that mindset is the one that I kind of, my senses are like, it was mindset that was the breakthrough, but also God, because none of my story makes sense scientifically, but I will say I did do some things different. You can try them yourself. And all of them together, I did have a better outcome, which I'm gonna tell you at the end of this. So stay tuned to the end of the video. I gotta keep you hanging. All right, so really the first thing that I did, which I've already mentioned, is that I was so careful about the energy that I surrounded myself with. And really, I have been pushing with bundle birth nurses and launching the nurses side of my business. For the last year, we launched a 12-month mentorship program with 3 to 6 hours of nursing content on camera with a workbook, with calls for the last year. It has been amazing, but also so much of my life was poured into that. And so starting in about August, and I knew that I was shooting for an October, November egg freezing, and you wanna be working towards at least 3 months of consistent habits of health, ideally even longer. So if you're like, I know I wanna freeze my eggs someday, start some of this stuff now as just habits for your life. But starting in August, I was so careful about the energy I surrounded myself with. I was so careful with the words that I chose to speak, whether I believed them or not, but specifically related to my fertility. And I think there was a piece of me that when I first got my AMH, I had internalized that was the end. that I was not going to be a mom, that there was a chance I was infertile, which is not totally true because I still had eggs in there. But I think it got into me somewhere. And I think I started doing the mental shift work of no, I won't accept that there are healthy eggs inside of me, that I will be a mom someday. And so the energy, meaning the words I chose, that like if somebody brought up like, oh no, what if this? I was like, nope, I don't need to think about that. I don't want to bring that energy into my life. Whether you believe in energy or not, I do, in the form of God. If I'm looking at you and my energy is like this, you feel a certain way than if I'm looking at you like this and I'm telling you all the things, right? My energy like shifted. In fact, internally, I'm like, ooh, I gotta whoosah that out, okay? So I just watch my words. And then the other mindset thing that I started doing every single day was I meditated. And I have not been a meditator. I believe in meditation. I've read the studies. There's tons of clinical research on meditation and how it helps with mental health and downregulating the nervous system and all of that. And so I sort of started just being really intentional about morning routines, which that could be a whole nother video if you want it to know what I do for my morning routines that I've developed and like sort of perfected to a place where I feel so good when I walk into my days when I do my morning routine, which I don't always do, but I try. And so, but with this meditation, just a 10-minute meditation, I use the Peloton app because I have a Peloton that I need to start using, but I haven't really been using for a while, but I've been using it for meditation, and do a 10-minute meditation in the morning just to down-regulate my nervous system because I know that fertility is impacted by stress. And I also knew that my stress levels have been the highest ever. Okay. The other thing is that we discovered that my thyroid was a little bit hypoactive. And so I started myself, or my doctor put me on a little bit of Synthroid to help with that. Now, I think that probably has to do with my stress levels. So flexible on that. So that is something that shifted that they found, but that meditation almost daily. The other thing I started doing was going to weekly acupuncture. So acupuncture can help with uterine blood flow. It can help regulate your periods. It can help with hormones, all of that. I'm not an acupuncturist. If you want to learn more about that, I can bring on my acupuncturist onto this channel. I'm sure he would love to talk about it. And he is so kind and compassionate. His name is Dr. Jafari, and he is here in Los Angeles. If you're looking for someone, I could not say better things about him. I've never probably felt more comfortable with a practitioner in my life. I felt like every time I'd walk into his office, I'd just like about everything going on in my life. He'd remember details about my life, and then he'd like think I was silly because I'd like be rattling off, and then he'd always give me the anxiety needle in my forehead because I'm like talking 5,000 miles an hour. And so I felt like he understood, he listened, and then he specifically changed what acupuncture points he hit based on where I was at in the egg freezing cycle. So we started with regulating your period, and then once I was on my meds, it was uterine blood flow to help grow the follicles and all of that. In fact, there was one weekend where my follicles tripled in size after going and seeing him, and I swear that's like the only thing that changed. They were like, whoa, they grew so fast, we're pushing up your retrieval date. So I really think that helped. Acupuncture, I'll link him down below. He's awesome. He has an Instagram, all of that. So acupuncture was another thing that I did. The other thing was I really focused on my water. It is a running joke in Bundle Birth that I have 16 beverages going all the time. In fact, I can look around this house and I see like sparkling water. I see my water here. I have an energy drink at my feet. We just put out my mug for coffee. Like I have a problem. And one of the things I don't do is drink water. So I was trying to find creative ways to increase my water. Water is life, right? And so one of the things that I did was I added chlorophyll to my water. So I actually have it here. I still do this every single day. And the chlorophyll that I found is from Sakara. Sakara has like beauty water. I just started putting supplements in everything basically, including my coffee. So I do vital proteins in my coffee in the morning. I can link all of this down below for you. Vital proteins in my coffee. And then I did a mushroom extract for energy and brain health. That I put in my coffee every morning. I do chlorophyll from Sakara, and I'm obsessed with this stuff. My assistant calls it dirt water, and now it's lovingly called dirt water. So occasionally I will put like a natural sweetener, flavor stuff with stevia in there to help it, because otherwise it does kind of taste like dirt. But honestly, it's like I've gotten used to it. So chlorophyll can help with inflammation, all that. I'll link that down below. And then the other thing I did, so in my morning routine, I do my big jar of chlorophyll water, And then I added 8 greens. And now I just ordered like 16,000 packets of 8 greens because I'm scared of getting rid of this stuff. And so you put 1 tablet, I'll show you. So it's just 1 tablet like Alka-Seltzer. And this 1 tablet has enough vitamin B6 as 6 cups of spinach, vitamin C as 6 oranges, vitamin B5 as 15 cups of broccoli, vitamin B12 as 7 cups of milk, and zinc for 3 cups of peas. Made from 8 greens, 8 real greens: spinach, aloe vera, wheatgrass, kale, blue-green algae, spirulina, chlorella, and barley grass. So all good things for us, right? And so I added this into a big glass of water, and by the time I went to work in the morning, I'd had this entire thing of chlorophyll, 1 thing of 8 greens, and then I limited my caffeine, which if you have seen my caffeine video, like God bless myself, because I for sure am a caffeine addict, and I said I would have 1 latte a day. I do have an espresso maker on the other side that I'm obsessed with, and so it was a double shot a day with some milk, and that was the vital proteins and the mushroom stuff, and then that was it for the day. If I did anything in the afternoon, it was caffeine free, limiting my caffeine. Now, research on that is like meh, but I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna lower it because I know I probably have too much caffeine. So I had been recommended to take DHA, DHEA, prenatal vitamin, and CoQ10, which I know Dr. Gadir talked about on our call. Now, this time around, I added vitamin C to my regimen. So, and actually, there's vitamin C like chewies. Chewies are not the best vitamins. Chewies, that's not what it's called. They're like the gummies. Gummies are not the best form of vitamin. In fact, on a live that I did with Dr. Gadir, he talked all about that, because we want vitamins that when we ingest them and we're paying money for them, we want them actually doing what they're supposed to do. And some vitamins we don't absorb as well. So my favorite vitamin C supplement, and this is across the board as an antioxidant for building healthy fertility, specifically eggs. So if you're trying to conceive, we need enough antioxidants in our diet, which can come in the form of vitamin C. So I love Peak, and this is Daily Radiance Elderberry Liposomal C Immune Support Radiant Skin, 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. So you can throw this back. It's like a gel. It doesn't taste horrible. There's one that I've had that like I literally gag to get down. Or you can mix this into your water. So a lot of times I just put it in my chlorophyll water to kind of spice it up, make it taste a little less dirty. And then or you can just throw it back like a shot, but that 1,000 milligrams is what I've heard as the recommendation. Of course, check with your provider of vitamin C. Now, the other thing is, I started with a much smaller pill box, and then I sort of got into supplements along the way. And so these are my supplements for the week. And so at the beginning of the week, we fill these up, and then you take 1 day's worth. I'll find one that's full, which is nice because it can be on the go. I'll link this thing down below because I love it, because you can just push the pills inside. Now, a lot of my supplements were 2 or 3 times a day. So I sort of just like split them in half so that you're only taking half and half. And then honestly, I'd forget and just take them all and like look at all of these pills. There's like 20 pills. Mind you, I take them one at a time to help me get my water down, so you can flex and flow on that one. So what I ended up doing was I added all sorts of supplements. I know the top here is yellow because of the turmeric that I've been taking as a supplement. If it's mixed with black pepper, that helps with absorption. So I have one there. I can link down below. If you want one on my fertility supplements / just the supplements that I take, you can let me know, because that would be a whole entire YouTube video. But in here are those 4 things that Dr. Gadir mentioned. And then I take the vitamin C, and then there's a biotin I added for sure, and some other things like probiotic and whatnot. So let me know if you want on that. But I was really strict on my supplements. So I took them religiously multiple times a day if I could remember, and then probably consistently for about 3 months leading up to the retrieval. Now, I mentioned my morning meditation / my morning routine. Now, as a part of my morning routine, I journaled my intentions, I prayed, I asked God for him to like open my womb and blood flow, and I visualized my eggs growing inside my uterus. Not my uterus, hopefully not my uterus, that means I'm pregnant. I'm not trying to get pregnant right now. Inside my ovaries. And so that visualization and prayer, I think, was also really helpful in getting my mindset, that energy right. Now, early on, this is so interesting. I was anticipating this fertility journey. And I had Krista Dancy here filming a class for Bundleberg nurses, who's a therapist. She does EMDR, also I think some hypnosis. She's trained in hypnosis. And so she was like, I really want to do this brain spotting thing with you. And I was like, sure. She's like, because I feel like there's maybe some energy surrounding your eggs that maybe we want to clear. And I was like, whatever will help. So we actually talked about doing it on camera. And then I ended up we were getting ready and we got into it in my bedroom. And then it just turned into this whole thing. And I was like, you know what? This one's for me. And that was sort of when the journey started to begin in my mind, that this round was for me, which was a part of the mental piece that like when I went to my appointments, I was able to just focus on like, okay, this is me and I'm building these healthy eggs and like my future children could be here with me and I'm keeping them safe. Like, and as crazy as that may sound, I really felt like it helped me stay focused on the end goal and reminded that I'm not in control, but I'm controlling what I can, right? I say that all the time, and I really was practicing what I preach in that way. So Krista was here and we got talking about like what are some blockages and what are all of this and that. And as I was talking, I got this visualization of this, because in the last year, remember Gabby, when we were talking about my ovaries, she said they're like the size of an almond. So I always picture my little ovaries as almonds inside of me. And so I had this visualization of like this little almond full of these cute little like almost cartoon eggs like bopping around and being like, we're okay, Mom, we're waiting. Like, it was like this hilarious little visualization. And I was like, I just like had this vision in my head. She was like, okay, tell me about it. And so I told her about it and it was just stuck so clear. In fact, I can still see it in my brain. And she's like, okay, so hold on to that. So remember in my call with Dr. Gadir where he was like, there was that client that put something on the mirror and those 2 eggs on the mirror and visualized that. I really tapped into that this time and I feel like I got a visualization to focus on. I actually drew it out. So I will post on my Instagram what this visualization was as my drawing and then kind of a little explanation. So make sure you head on over to Instagram and check that out. But it was like this little like, we're okay. And when I thought of it, I just was like, they're gonna be okay. And it was a full boat of eggs. And I just was like, that's what I needed. So whenever I had doubts, I went back to that visualization, like, nope, we're okay, Mom. And they're like this little boat of all these bunch of eggs in there. Again, may sound crazy, but also for me was super helpful. And so that visualization I actually printed it. I brought it with me on vacation, which was another piece of this. I specifically took a 2-week vacation where the goal was to get in my routines, to journal, to meditate, to slow, to release stress, to sleep finally, and really like begin that like detoxing process from the last year as I anticipated new season, freezing my eggs. So vacation was essential. I'll get back to that, but actually I'm going to tell you now that I, on a whim, went to Italy as well, which was like so amazing for my soul. So I'll get into that. But either way, I had this visualization. I put it on my wall in Cancun. I have it on my mirror still to this day. And every time I think about it, I'm like, thank you, God, for my sweet little eggs. And so I focused on that. Now, the other thing she did was a thing called brain spotting, which had to do with where you look. So she helped me find a spot, which actually this is the spot that I look, that kind of can help slow your nervous system. So if you're interested in more of that, Krista Dancy is her name. EMDR, it's some sort of brain spotting technique that you could do with your therapist. Check that out, okay? So I went on vacation and then I came back. And so now we're getting into the story, okay? Because I went to my doctor and we checked everything out and I knew that I would have more eggs. I knew it. I just was like, there's no way. I just sensed, and he had said, let's just plan to do it every time, like as many times as possible until you get to 10 eggs. Like 10 would be a good number for your age and for your AMH. And I was like, okay, fine. And I just sort of let it go. And I was like, and I know in the last one I told you that I had a client that paid for me to do it again. So I was like, all right, we're doing it. And so went in fully expecting, and I asked God for 16 eggs, and they did the follicle check, the ultrasound inside, and I had 16 follicles that round. And so because of that, and looking at with my AMH as well, we tested my AMH again, and my AMH went from 0.7 to 1.3, which to me is somewhat of a medical miracle. And this is where, like, if you don't believe in God, I'm telling you right now, he is real. For me, there is no other explanation other than the fact that I fully trusted God and I finally surrendered that piece of me that I have held so dearly and so has felt so vulnerable and real and scary in so many ways, and just said, God, you're in control. You have promised me children. I just sensed that so for so many years, my whole life, and we're done. Like, I'm not gonna not trust you, and I'm fully surrendered, and this is what's gonna happen. And I believe that I was healed in that way. In fact, I'm really not worried about my fertility anymore. And I know, like, I froze my eggs again, fine. But either way, I actually think I probably will get pregnant naturally, at least the first time. I would love to use those eggs in the future. But, I let go. And that's sort of like, I think, a life lesson for all of us, that we can hold on so tightly and walk in fear, or we can just surrender and let God do what they need to do, and voila. So my regimen was totally different this time. So what I did was, instead of starting meds right away, they said to come back in 2 weeks to make sure I ovulated, which is like the normal regimen. And so all of a sudden I had 2 weeks that I had been planning on doing this egg freezing free, and my friend was in Italy and I had a free place to stay. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to Italy in a day. I went to Italy for a week, and that was so good for my soul. And I rested, sort of, not really because of time change, but like I adventured and I explored and I opened my mind. And travel for me is such a refreshing thing that I feel like that trip I needed as an energizer coming back here. So when I came back, went there, verified that I ovulated, and then that started me on estrogen. And then once I got my period, we checked again. So this is new round of follicles. Again, trusting that even though I had 16 that one time, there was a small piece of me that was like, oh, we're gonna lose the 16, we gotta start over. But I just was like, hands open, we're doing it. Then we went back and checked again and started the process of medications. And I officially went in, it's been 2.5 weeks ago. And I will say that I think whether it was one of these things that I did or all of them, mindset, whatever resonates with you, we went in and I got out of anesthesia, and they told me that they got 15 of the 12 follicles. And so I had 12 going into this round, and they got 15 eggs from 12, which to me is just one more testimony of the miracle of what God can do. And again, as a trigger warning, I know I sort of let that in on this. I know that so many of you have done this so many times. And I will say, like, I'm getting choked up again thinking about it, because this whole thing has been so emotional. This last time I joked on stories, I was following it on my personal story for this one, that like I feel like I lied to you as far as how hard egg freezing was the first time around, because I had like no follicles. Whereas this time I had this like massive amount of all growing at the same rate follicles. And when I went into that ultrasound, remember when I had the breakdown in the car where I was like, it's not like Google. And I know it's not like Google. This time I saw Google on the screen, and I was just like, I see them. There's these little clusters. I had like 9 on one side, which made me extremely bloated, like pregnant bloated, so uncomfortable bloated. In fact, I'm like thinking about my abdomen right now, and I'm so grateful for my non-bloated abdomen, because it was so uncomfortable. I was extra emotional, even just on the estrogen. It would like became a joke around, because people would say anything, and I'd be like, that's so nice. I'd start crying. So, this time around it was a different experience, but I really think that's because I had more follicles, and those follicles secreting hormones and me bloating up like a balloon. I was just like, okay, we're grateful for the bloating, even though I'm so uncomfortable. Went in, got 15 follicles, and then they have to test those. So sometimes those don't make it. They test them and they're not mature. They're immature eggs. And so went in, found out the next day that 12 eggs froze. Actually, it was 10 eggs, and then 2 more matured after that. So I officially have now 14 eggs in storage. I am done. I could cry about that, because I fully went into this one just hands open, like, okay, I'll make it out. I'll figure out a way. If I need to do like 10 rounds, I hope it's not 10 rounds, and some of you do, like, do 10 rounds or whatever to try to get these eggs. And it is exhausting. If you know someone going through IVF, if you know someone freezing their eggs, please be extra gentle and kind to them. Ask them how they're doing. Check in with them. Ask about their symptoms. Ask about their emotions, because this ish was challenging, let me tell you. And that was just me doing the egg part. Like, I still would have to go in and make embryos and then IVF and all of that and do like the second half of it. And so be kind to your people. I have so much more compassion now for those of you that have been through it. I have multiple clients currently that have been through IVF, and we have a different bond because I've experienced this now, at least in some way, somewhat like them. So this round I did for me, and I was asking if you wanted an update, and of course I want to give you an update because you guys have been so invested and were my support. So I want to add that to the list, that so many of you actually thought that it was real time that I was freezing my eggs with the vlogs that I posted, and it wasn't. But it actually was, because I was going through many of the same things in the videos in real time in a different way, but for myself. And so I think that's also a reminder, anybody who's in the public eye in one way or another, whether they're an influencer, celeb, whoever you are, I think that there are times when people, of course we want to let you in, but I felt so strongly that this time I needed to put my focus, rather than helping you or helping, and that's sort of my MO, like I'll help them or I'll teach them or I'll let them in for their benefit, when really it wasn't about me the first time around. And I just feel so strongly that it wasn't for me the first time around, which is totally fine. But this time I felt also very strongly that it was for me and my future, and in completing the process that I needed to complete for landing the half circle. If you saw that last episode, please go back and see that last fertility update, because there were some really good nuggets in there. But I feel like, and I had been asking, that this was the end of this time of my fertility. I feel like it's lingered on and on and on and on and on, years and years, where I've just had this like undergoing, my fertility, I need to be doing something. And now I feel like I've landed and I can launch into a next season, which I really just feel like is health for me and balance for me and managing business and YouTube and you guys and family and future and all of my relationships in a way that's a lot more healthy and really taking my own health. This, I will say, my fertility piece, I think, was a really good catalyst in helping me do some better health habits or create some better routines that promoted my health. And so I'm still taking my supplements. I'm still doing the vitamin C, the Sakara chlorophyll, the 8 greens in the morning, soon to be adding exercise. I was waiting until I got my period for this round in order to add the exercise back in and stuff like that, so that I know that I'm setting myself for a long lasting, healthy life. So this is the end as far as right now. Now, if and when I intend to have babies in the future, I would anticipate bringing you along the ride for that. So make sure you subscribe down below so that if that happens in the nearest future, that you are there for it. And I will give you updates as far as that goes. But as far as my fertility journey right now, this is the end. I am done. I am not freezing my eggs again. I feel like if I were to do it again, I considered it because, and they'd said, the nurse in the office was just like, you did so good this time. Like, you had such a great outcome, just one more round. And I was like, I could, but I feel like that would be a decision made out of fear rather than trusting in what God has told me and what I feel so incredibly strong about. And so I'm done. And I have my sweet little 14 eggs hanging out, bumping around in the little petri dish somewhere, ready for me if I need them in the future. And I feel like I feel settled now and I can move on into new seasons of growth in my life. So with that, thank you for following along. I'm getting emotional again. I am too. I know, they've just been so great. You guys have been so great. Like, in fact, I never anticipated the support that I feel like I got that just kind of pushed me on along the way. And I started saying that, but I just like, bear with it. Anyway, so thank you again for being a part of it. Thank you for watching and caring and being so invested in my life, sending me the loving DMs, telling me your stories. I would love to hear your takeaways from this vlog. I think for me, what keeps me going is knowing that some of this stuff may make a difference or may impact your life for the positive. So I'd love to know that in the comment box down below. And then let me know what else you want from me, because I know I said this in the past, but we are filming all sorts of new content for YouTube, but also I'm open to maybe some other creative things, like maybe a birth coming up, so make sure you subscribe because I'm working on that one, okay? And then check out the description box because I offer lots of other things. If you want childbirth classes, you want to gift a class to a loved one that's pregnant, such a gift that keeps on giving. PDF downloads, all sorts of other support and things down below. I also have Amazon lists of things that I'm saving like literally every day of things I love and are helpful for your pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum. So thank you for following along on this fertility journey. Stay tuned for more. Make sure you subscribe down below. You can follow me over at Bundle Birth on Instagram. My personal is Sarah Lavonne, where that's like not so much birthy stuff, but more my life stuff. If you've liked my life stuff on here, which this is a lot more my life stuff, still sort of related to birthy stuff, but different. And then until next time, don't forget to flex and flow, and I will see you soon. Bye.